Welcome to another episode of Dreamer Talks. I am Trevon Gross Jr., your host. I am joined today by Jess Simon, who is a newly sworn in public defender in Connecticut. Jess, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So, obviously, you're a lawyer now.
Yes.
What's that like for you? Like that, you just got sworn in. Tell me all of those emotions.
So I would say it's almost like a surreal moment because I wanted to be an attorney for quite a long time, maybe since about 2007-ish.
Okay.
So I graduated from college in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
But since then I've wanted to be an attorney. So the feeling that I'm having now is like surreal. I'm really happy. It's like I'm working but not working because I'm actually doing something I really enjoy.
That's awesome.
So I wake up every morning, I'm really excited to go to work. I get excited to read police reports and go through my files and talk to my clients. So it's a really good feeling.
That's awesome. So tell me more about just the process to become a lawyer, because I kind of know a little bit, but like, what is that process like? Like, I know law school. Like, how long is law school? What do you have to do after law school? Explain that to me.
Okay, so I know, so I spoke to many students. I used to recruit for my law school after I graduated.
Okay.
So I was an alumni admissions recruiter. So many students had the same question because they know they want to be an attorney but didn't know the process. So the process is you just need a bachelor's degree and then you have to take the LSAT, which is the law school admissions test.
I heard that's a really hard test. I couldn't imagine taking it.
It can be very tough. When I took it, I worked part-time, so I left my full-time job, worked part-time, and studied for the LSAT.
Okay.
Usually they administer like 4 times a year, but I think they're doing a little bit more now.
Okay.
So just need a bachelor's degree. You don't have to get your master's. You can. Many people do to make their application more marketable.
Yeah.
But as long as you have your bachelor's, and then law school is 3 years.
Okay. I thought it was longer.
No, it's 3 years, and then you have to take the bar exam afterwards.
Now that's the really hard one, ain't it?
Yes.
Okay.
And then you have to pass the bar exam, and then there's a process with that. They have like a character and fitness requirement, so depending on the state, each state has their own character and fitness requirement.
Right.
And once you are recommended for bar admission, then you get sworn in, then you officially become an attorney.
Wow.
So that's the
So
process.
you went through a long process to get to where you are.
Yes.
So let's go back. Take me back to, you decided that you want to be a lawyer, right? Did you kind of just know all that stuff that you needed to do? How did you
No, I did not know at all. I was a little confused, and I had some insight, but I wasn't really sure what the process was. So there's a law school admissions council.
Okay.
So lsac.org. So you actually have to register on their website, and you apply through them to apply for law school.
Right.
So for me, I didn't know because I'm the first person in my family to attend law school.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I had to ask a lot of questions, and it took me quite some time. So initially I was pretty fearful of applying. I heard like all the scary stories, so I talked myself out of applying quite a few times.
Okay.
And when I attended Hope Cathedral, when I was here, I did Hope Cathedral. I did a small group, so about your vision, and ended up doing like a vision board, and I put law school on there, the LSAT, I put all these things on there. And from attending church there, it helped me to gain a stronger faith and to leave my job.
That's awesome.
To go to law school. So that's how that happened. But as far as to answer your question and knowing the process, I didn't really know. So I just started going to the LSAC forums. So many law schools are there, and you can ask them questions. They give you fee waivers, things like that. So from doing that numerous times, I like traveled all over. I went to DC, New York, Atlanta. From doing that, then I understood the process a little bit better.
That's really dope, because I mean, in hearing you even explain that, it's like, because you just knew, I want to be a lawyer. I don't know how, but I want to be a lawyer. You had just a willingness to, I'm going to travel to DC, I'm going to travel to New York, I'm going to travel all these places, and I'm going to ask questions. Because I feel like a lot of people are fearful to ask questions, like to get that information. So when you were asking all those questions, was it just like, I have no shame in asking, like, it might sound like the dumbest question ever, but I'm going to ask, like...
Oh, no, absolutely. I think sometimes, because I'm an overthinker too, like many people, like we think about things, but I do feel that if you don't ask or you don't take a chance, you'll never know what can happen. And for me, like I knew I wanted to go to law school when I say in 2007, well, it wasn't just like I knew, like I didn't go to college knowing. I was an engineering major at first, electrical engineering.
Yeah.
And I ended up graduating with an economics degree. But while I was at Spelman, there was a lady named Dr. Jane Smith, who I absolutely love. She's amazing.
Awesome.
And she pushed me to do like every leadership program on Spelman's campus. She also pushed me to do this program called PLEN. So it's called Public Leadership Education Network. So it's geared towards getting more women involved in politics.
Okay.
So the school paid for me to do the Women in Public Policy seminar. So I didn't know anything about politics when I went.
Right.
So I went to DC, I was on Capitol Hill, I met the US Treasurer. We were at the executive office next to the White House. So I was able to meet people. I actually loved it so much that they had a Women in Congress seminar, and my school didn't have the funding to pay for me, but I said I really wanted to go. So I saved my money. And during spring break, when all my friends were in Miami, I went to DC to do the conference. So while I was at that conference, Congressman John Lewis, so let me back the story up. So there I met a lot of congresswomen, and I was able to sit in on congressional hearings and things like that. And I was in the hallway on Capitol Hill, one of the buildings, and Congressman John Lewis walked past me twice. And so I wanted to say hi, but I was scared. So I was like, oh, well, if he walks past me a third time, I'm going to say something. Of course, and it's crowded up there. So the likelihood of him walking past a third time was like slim, but of course he did. So I went up to him and I introduced myself.
That's awesome.
And then he said to me like, oh, come upstairs and I'll show you around the office. And so I did. And so later on in the day, I went upstairs and another young lady and I went. And when I was leaving, I asked him before I left, do you have any internship opportunities? Now, at this time, I told you I didn't know much about politics. So I knew he was a congressman, but I didn't exactly know where. So it just happened to be that he was a congressman for Atlanta, where I went to school. So he said, well, I don't have any internships here in DC, but we may have some in the Atlanta office. So he ended up giving me the business card there. So I called and I told them and I ended up getting an internship. So from that experience, just because I asked him, do you have any internship opportunities? And he said, well, call the office. And I did, and I had an interview and they hired me for an intern. So
tell me more about just that experience of going to that event. Was that like motivating for you, like in a sense, to like be around all these congresswomen? Like you, obviously, like you said, you weren't into politics or you didn't know much about politics at the time, but like just being in that space, was that like motivating to you?
Oh, it was very motivating. It was like, you ever been somewhere where you just felt like this is where I belong, or you just feel like really comfortable, or you feel empowered? So the whole time I was there, I felt empowered. Awesome. During that same week, I went to a congressional hearing and Barack Obama was at the hearing, but I just missed him, so I saw his nameplate. And I said, well, I really want to meet this man. Because this is like when he was like just running, so he wasn't that popular at the time. But I said I wanted to meet him. So I found out where his office was. And the same young lady and I went up to his office. And I introduced myself. And there was another lady that worked with him who also went to Spelman. So she and I were talking. Well, she graduated from Spelman. So she and I were talking, and he came upstairs. And so he came upstairs, and then he tapped me on the shoulder. And he's like, hey, how's it going? And I opened my mouth, and nothing came out. And I like, it was bad. And I like to talk. So the fact that I couldn't say anything to him, it was just bad. So then he went in the office, came back out, and then we followed him by the elevator. So there's a senator's elevator, and then there's a general public elevator.
Right.
So I was staring at him. I couldn't say anything. The only thing I could say was, can I take a picture? So we took a picture with him. Then I followed him onto the senator's elevator, realized I couldn't get on the elevator. So then I got off, and I was stuttering, and the girl I was with fell on the floor. So he watched that whole thing. It was like really bad.
What?
But
wait, this is all in front of Barack Obama.
This is all in front of him. It was really embarrassing. So from that experience, because he was the only person I've ever met that made me feel that way, I said, well, I want to volunteer on his campaign. So when I was in Atlanta, they had one event. I went, volunteered, and I spoke to someone there. They gave me a contact in D.C. So that summer, I interned in D.C. at the Public Defender's Office, and I also volunteered on his campaign that entire time.
Wow.
So I got a chance to see him a few more times. And then I did Camp Obama to learn about like grassroots organizing. So all of that and those experiences kind of fostered my drive to want to become an attorney, because most politicians are attorneys.
Right, yeah. For sure.
in addition to that, I always had a passion for criminal law or criminal justice. So those two reasons were the reasons why I wanted to go to law school.
That's amazing. Like, I feel like to have such a crazy story like that in front of Barack Obama, did that bring like a level of, all right, well, I mean, that happened in front of Barack Obama, like, I shouldn't be nervous to meet anyone now. Like, was there like a level
it really
of
was.
that?
I was like, well, I literally embarrassed myself in front of this man. So, I mean, I shouldn't be shy to ask any questions or do anything or be, it's okay to take a risk, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if I didn't say anything or go to his office, I never would have volunteered on his campaign.
Right.
If I didn't say hi to Congressman John Lewis, I never would have got an internship in his office. Right. And from interning in his office, I was able to meet Hillary Clinton and the Dalai Lama. Mm-hmm. So I would never have had any of those experiences had I not said something. Right.
Even further back, if you hadn't saved up for that trip.
Right.
Instead of being, wherever with your friends on spring break.
Could have been in Miami.
Wow.
Yeah, everybody went to Miami.
They still do. They still go. That's awesome. So let's circle back. So you had a professor, Jane Smith was her name, correct?
Yeah, Dr. Jane Smith.
Dr. Jane Smith. You also mentioned you were in a small group here at Hope Cathedral.
Yes.
Right? So it sounds like there was like a group of people that really helped you, continue basically to push you towards being a lawyer. Like, tell me more about that in the sense of, how did they help you? What were they saying to you? And if there's more people that were in your circle of helping you push you towards that, like, tell me more about that.
Okay, so while I was an undergrad, Dr. Jane Smith, she was also a Spelman graduate, but she was in charge of the Leadership Center.
Okay.
So I used to just say hi to her, and I feel like she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself yet. So she was the one that pushed me to do more leadership opportunities, things that I wouldn't have even thought to apply. She's like, you should apply and do this. I think you'll be great at it. And I said, okay. So I did, and it was a really great experience, and I'm glad that she did do that because it helped me to tap into my own potential that I didn't know. And sometimes some people know their potential right away, and then some have an idea of what they might like, but not really sure. But from her pushing me, I got so much experience that I was able to learn more about myself and things that I like and things that I don't like. And so moving from there, I worked for some time in the public sector. And every time, I worked for a police department too, so every time I would go in a courthouse or have to get a subpoena, I just felt like this is where I'm supposed to be. And so while I was at Hope Cathedral, one thing that really helped me is I joined the small group that I told you about, For Your Vision, and then I actually became a small group leader. Okay. So Pastor Quinn actually pushed me to be a small group leader. And at first I was trying to avoid it. I was like, I'm not doing this. But I didn't tell her that, but I was like, I'm not doing this. And I remember she sent me an email with whoever was running the bookstore at the time, and she put her in the email, Jessica, what's your topic? And I was like, so I Googled the topic really quickly, and then I was like, well, I'll just do this. So I got put on the spot, but I'm glad she did it because I was trying to avoid doing it. I didn't want to pray out loud. I didn't want to do any of those things. But from her doing that and pushed me to do it, I had at least 7 or 8 people in the small group. And I know some small groups may only have 3 or 4 or 5. But it really was a blessing. And she told me I'd be blessed by it, and I was. So some of the fears that I had, I actually didn't have anymore after being a small group leader.
That's awesome.
So it was just, so I can say throughout my journey, there was a factor of fear, but coming to Hope Cathedral and then having other people in my life to push me to do better and just realizing that I can do this helped me. So it's just, sometimes I always tell people, it's usually it's whatever you're thinking you had to stop you. It's not anyone else. You can accomplish your goal.
Absolutely.
So that helped a lot. And even while I was in law school, being the first person in my family to go, I didn't know many of my classmates, I didn't know anything. So many of my classmates, their parents are attorneys and things like that, so they knew what to study, how to study, and all those things. I didn't know anything. I was in class, wait, how do I write this brief? Did anybody else I remember coming out of class, I'm did anybody else understand what just happened? But I met professors that really took a liking to me and really helped me. And I was able to go to them, talk to them about it, or even the things that I was confused about, they helped. And so it's really important to find people who will support you and who believe in your dream just as much as you do, because they'll help push you
Right.
along. And I've had people help me do that throughout this whole journey.
Yeah.
Throughout this whole journey.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, you know, you kept using the word fear and things like that. Is that something that is that something you still deal with now? Is there a fear of anything at this point? Because, I mean, you've done it, right? Like, what, is that still a factor to you?
Of course, you know, when I'm working, I'm like, okay, I really want to make sure I do a really good job. So I wouldn't say it's fear, it's just, I want to ensure that I'm doing the best that I can.
Gotcha.
But am I afraid to take a chance? No. Am I afraid to go after things that I want now? No.
Yeah.
Am I afraid to like try something? No.
Yeah. Now, I can imagine that's always like the biggest, you know, confidence booster in the world when you have other people that really, I'm not gonna say don't know you, but like they didn't grow up with you. You know, they're just meeting you in this certain space, right? With college, like with Dr. Jane Smith. Like you didn't know her prior, but you said that she saw something in you that you didn't see in yourself. Like I can imagine that just has to be like the most empowering thing in the world, because it's like now it's like, wait, well, if I've been selling myself short and this one person is seeing something in me, like, well, all right, let's try to take on the world and see where the chips may fall. But that's awesome, really.
Oh yeah, so now I'm like, oh, anything that I'm interested in, I want to try it. I'm
Go
going for it.
Huh?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So tell me more about just your experience in law school, right? Because I only know it to be just a lot of reading. Like how was that for you? Like you said you didn't really know how to do things. Like what was that like for you?
So it's almost like learning a different language. So you're in class and you're reading, you know, cases, and they're very dense. Okay. And then you have to like pick apart the case. So you have to figure out what the subject is, what the issue is, what the rule is. Like you're looking at all these things, and it takes training and it takes time to be able to read it and figure that out. So that's why they have you like brief cases, and they teach you how to do that. So you'll have like a legal writing class, and everyone in every law school usually takes the same classes during their first year. Okay. So you're taking like torts, criminal law, property. I'm trying to think of the other classes. So you're taking similar classes because those are the subjects you're going to be tested on when you take the bar. Gotcha. So many people don't know that either. Like your first year classes are the classes, like your core classes that you're going to be tested on when you take the bar exam. Wow. Yeah. Now,
with the bar exam, right? What was that like preparing for that? Like, was that just kind of like this is the bar, or is it kind of like, all right, this is just another test, or like, what was that like?
No, I can honestly say that was probably one of the hardest things I ever had to do. Okay. Was study and pass the bar exam. You definitely need like discipline. You need great time management, and you need to be focused. Okay. So I had to take the bar exam I took it more than once. And when I studied the first time, I was trying to still do a million things like how I normally do. Gotcha. I remember I was a keynote speaker for where I worked in high school. So I worked at Seabrook Village. Okay. So I was a keynote speaker for their scholarship award ceremony. And then, so I was doing that and trying to do other organizations and all those things. Yeah. That didn't work. Clearly I didn't pass, right? And so when I took it again, I had to honestly cut everything off. Like I did nothing. Yeah. But study.
I feel like that's like one of the like most frustrating things like in the process of it, where it's like, this is just a test, I should be passing this, right? But then it's like, how do I, like you take it once, you don't pass. Then it's like, all right, back to the drawing board.
Let me just explain, because we're making it seem like it's like a general test. The bar exam was 2 days.
It's a 2-day test?
Yes. So yeah.
I'm thinking it's like SATs type. No, it's a 2-day test?
It's a 2-day test, and you're there all day. Jesus. Yeah, so you're there all day, and there's like a day of writing, and then there's a day of like multiple choice. So there's at least like 16 areas of law that you have to study. Wow. 16, different areas. So, and then within those areas is like different components. So, and I know some people who may be listening to this may be like, oh, that sounds boring or whatever, because it's a lot, right? But just to give an example, like you heard of torts. Have you heard of torts?
Yeah, I've heard of torts.
Okay. So, you have like intentional torts, and then you have negligence, right? And so there's different types of intentional torts, and then there's different rules for those intentional torts. And then there's negligence, right? And there's different areas of negligence, like duty, breach, causation, damages. But then there's different rules for each one of them. So you have to know all of that stuff.
All of it.
All of it when you're studying for the bar.
Ooh,
So that's why you can't really do it. That's why it was better for me not to do anything and just study. It really does take discipline.
Girl,
it's not
smart.
It's not easy. You are funny. It's not an easy exam, but you can do it.
Gotcha. Absolutely.
You know, like after you take it the first time, whatever, it doesn't go your way. Did you know, like, all right, I gotta cut this out? Did you just like know that, like, stuff has to go, or was that a process figuring out?
It was, but it was also because of my own habits, right? So I had to realize, okay, what did I do wrong then that I can do better now, right? So I do a lot of like self-reflection all the time with everything. So for me, it was just, how did I study before? What did work? What didn't work? What do I need to do now? And what do I need to do for my habits? Because your habits can really impact you. So
absolutely.
So that was the main thing. And then studying, it was fine. So after that. But did I walk out of there feeling like, I passed? No, I had no idea.
You had no idea?
No, I prayed throughout the entire test. Before, after, during.
Yeah.
And when I found out I passed, I cried so hard. Like, it was like that ugly cry.
Yeah,
like that 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐞 kind of cry.
Yeah. Nah, I just finished that show too. That's that. Yeah. That's crazy.
It was bad. I mean, people FaceTime me and like my eyes are like bloodshot red.
Yeah.
And one of my best friends, because the results are public. So one of my best friends, we were on the phone together and we were like, okay, the results are coming out. And she was like, well, I'm gonna look. You want me to call you back? And I was like, no, just stay on the phone with me just in case. So then she said to me like, Mary Jessica, your name was on the list. And I was like, what? And I like instantly started crying. I was just thanking God. Like I was crying. And she was like, why are you going to look? And I was like, I can't. I'm crying. Like I was crying so hard.
Yeah.
But because it's not an easy exam,
not at all, right.
So I was just happy. But the journey was tough. Law school is not really easy either. But if you have a good support system, if you have people you can study with, even if you have to study on your own, it's more so, it's a mental thing for you. Like just knowing like I'm here for a reason, God put me here for a reason, I can do this. I feel like if anyone wants to go to law school while they're in it, they keep telling themselves that they'll be fine.
Right.
But once you start comparing yourself to other people, you can be the most confident person going into law school, and it's easy to compare yourself to your classmates or to say like, oh, sounds like they got it and I didn't get it.
Yeah.
Most people don't get it. They just are trying and raising their hand, but most people are in the same boat. So it's just to get out your own head, right? And really just know that I'm here and I can do it, right? So I think that was one of the biggest hurdles, like when I first got there.
The comparing was a hurdle for you.
Yeah, in the beginning, because I was like, oh, well, people raise their hand, or I'm in class and like the teacher would say something, some things I got and some things went over my head. I was like, well, how did they get it,
Right.
But then I realized later, everybody.
Yeah, y'all don't know.
They don't know either. Y'all don't know either.
Right, yeah.
So I'm over here, stressing, and you guys don't know either.
Right.
So it's just really just not focusing on the external stuff and just really just focusing on why you're there. Remembering what made you want to be there. Because there are going to be high days where you're like, oh, I got this is great, and there are going to be some days where you're like, are you going to walk out of class and say, I have no idea what the teacher just said?
Yeah, that has to be.
Like your first year, it's like that. You're like, I don't know.
Right, like I just sat there, someone talked at me for however long.
Exactly. Yeah. But then there's days when you're there, you're like, oh yeah, I'm getting it.
That has to be like the best feeling. Those days gotta feel the best. Yeah. Like if you have a bunch of those days where it's like, I don't know what I just listened to, but then that one day, or even that one segment, I got that. Okay, that makes sense. Like now, does that that has to feel like? Oh no,
it feels amazing. Yeah. But by the time you're like in your third year, you have a better handle. Actually, after your second year, you're like, okay, I got it. I'm a little bit better. So by the time you're in your third year, it's okay.
Got you. Now you said earlier, in order to succeed in law school, that you gotta have good time management, good focus. And what was the third thing you said? I forget. It was the third thing you said. But are you good at time management? Was that something you were always good at?
Yeah, no.
No? Okay. So let's talk about that. Like, what was that like in terms of figuring out? Because I feel like that's like a whole nother thing to figure out on top of
yes, it is.
The material itself.
Yeah. So I've always been the type of person where I can do a million things at one time and still be okay, right? And still get it done, and it was fine.
Right.
No, you can't do that in law school. You can't.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad gave me advice, and he said to me, now I know you like to get involved in everything. Don't do that your first year. just focus on your schoolwork. And I was like, yeah, Dad, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to join everything. So I get there my first year and I join everything. So I'm like a part of the Criminal Law Society, Constitutional Law Society. Like I just joined like all these things, BALSA, everything. And I even joined a competition team. So it's like basically they teach you about negotiation and client counseling and things like that, right? So it's called the Society for Dispute Resolution. So I joined that. I did all these things. You can't, that
wasn't it?
No, that wasn't it at all.
Wow.
So I always tell people now, like your first year, like please just focus on your schoolwork. So, because that's where I messed up. And I tell them you'll have plenty of time to do things your second year, third year. But your grades matter.
Right.
They really do. Especially even with jobs, they matter. So, yeah, it took me time to learn that and to balance being able to like say no. Because all those things sound interesting. They were doing great things on campus. And I would go to all these meetings, all these events, and I'm like, wait, but I gotta finish my homework, And so in undergrad, you can do all those things and still do your homework.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or you can write your paper at the last minute and still get an A or B. But
yeah, we just gotta pass. Undergrad, you just gotta pass.
You can't do that in law school. That doesn't fly.
Wow.
At all.
That's crazy.
Like, don't. Because it's easy to fall behind and very hard to catch up.
That makes sense.
The teachers can give you like 30, 40 pages to read per class, per night. And this is dense material. So.
Like you really got to retain it.
Yeah, so, okay, you mind if I ask you a question? Okay, so if you read like 10 pages of a book, how long would that take you?
I would say 5 minutes, 7 minutes.
Exactly. 10 pages in law school can take you like 45 minutes to an hour. Because you have this thick book,
right?
And then there are all these words in there, all these like that you don't know the definition of. So now you have to have the dictionary next to you and your book. So you're looking up terms as you're reading. Then you're gonna go back and read it. Then you're trying to understand what you're reading. So it can take you.
Right.
So I tell people all the time, like, it might take you a long time to read 10 pages.
Where do you find the time? So you must not have been doing anything. Like so you're telling me that you were having this whole.
I mean, this is your first year, like your first year.
Yeah, like you have this whole setup of reading, but you're also doing all this stuff.
I was trying to do it.
Or you were trying, but
and it didn't work, and so I had to stop.
Right.
Because it takes a long time. It's not like how you just read a book for leisure and it's like quick. No.
Yeah, no, reading for leisure is completely different from like accidemic reading.
Oh yeah, no, but it's very dense. So people literally will sit with their dictionary in their book.
Wow. Now, are you close with any of the people you went to law school with? Like, do you feel like you came out of that with like close buddies or anything like that?
I'm gonna honestly say no. I have friends or associates, people that I'm friends with. We don't talk all the time.
Yeah.
We talk here and there, but I can't say that it's the same as undergrad. Right. And the reason why I say that, for me, it was just navigating through law school and navigating that whole process. I don't think I had the time to bond as well as I did when I was in undergrad.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense though, because you like you said, it takes 45 minutes to read 5 pages. I mean, when you have the time to even build those type of relationships.
Yeah, I mean, but some people do. Some people have made really great friends, and like they're in their weddings and things like that. For me, it wasn't just navigating law school, but also just being comfortable with being within a small group of people of color that are in law school too, because there's not that many people that look like us in law school. So being comfortable in that space, as well as trying to understand what I'm doing and navigating that, is, those are the battles within itself of trying to get through. So it can be tough. And of course, law school's more competitive than like undergrad, like class, there's class ranks and things like that. So I think all of those things play a part in how you build these friendships and these bonds. So yeah, those were some of the difficult things I can say that I went through.
Now I want to ask a fun question. So you get the news, you done passed the bar, you crying, boo-hooing, 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤, like we a whole mess.
Oh yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. Yeah.
What'd you do to celebrate? Please tell me you did something to celebrate.
Well, it was during COVID, so my friends did like a parking lot party for me.
Okay.
So our cars were all like,
Yeah,
couple
just
spaces apart.
yeah.
We were all like, they had cupcakes and a big sign. It was really nice. So they surprised me with that.
Oh, that's awesome. They surprised you with it. Okay.
Yeah, and
Dope.
then what else did I do? A few people like sent me gifts and things because we couldn't really hang out because
Right.
nothing was open,
Mhm.
and yeah, everyone was wearing masks, and
Yeah.
so that's really how I had to celebrate. So I
Okay.
haven't really had a chance to really celebrate yet because it's still COVID.
Is it good? Is the celebration coming?
I hope so. So I want to go on a trip.
Okay. I mean,
So I don't want
you
to
should.
party. I just want to go on a trip.
That's nice.
But I can't say I had a lot of support. So when I got sworn in,
Mhm.
my family came down and
That's
my
awesome.
line sisters were there. So at least it was like 15 people in the courtroom. And of course everybody was like
Well, yeah. I mean, they're
6
socially
feet apart.
distanced and all
So
that.
yeah,
stuff,
so because of that, the whole courtroom looked full
Mhm.
because everybody was socially
Yeah.
distanced.
Right. Yeah.
But it
Right.
felt good. It was nice. And I was able to have like my own swearing in ceremony because typically you get sworn in with everyone who took the bar and passed the same
Yeah.
time you did.
Right.
But because of COVID, they were doing it a little
They
bit
did.
differently. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So what was that like in terms of, you having that support system? Because I can imagine you didn't necessarily have a lot of time to, I guess, reach out to them, right?
No.
Like, I would assume they were still reaching out to you, at least hitting you with some like, oh, just checking on you type texts and all that.
Yeah.
Like, what was that like? How did that make you feel? Just to know.
Oh, it was great because studying took all day.
Mhm.
So I took little breaks, but I was studying all the time, and I had a study buddy too.
Oh, you had to study.
Yeah, I had someone who was also taking a bar who would study together, so that helped.
Mhm.
But yeah, just having that support was amazing because otherwise, I don't know how I would have got through it because it's a lot.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot.
It's a lot.
Couldn't imagine.
But it's one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, did you, if I explained what I did to go to law school, like to go to law school?
Tell me.
Okay, so I was working full time, and I had a dog, I had an apartment, I had bills,
Right.
It was stuff.
Adult
Yeah.
life. Yeah.
Yeah, adult life. And I knew I wanted to go to law school, and I was really, really nervous about leaving my job because I was working for New Jersey Transit,
Mm-hmm.
and from my understanding, it's hard to get in New Jersey Transit, so most people get in and stay. And so, but I knew, I was like, I don't think this is where I want to, build a career.
Right.
So, in coming to Hope Cathedral, Pastor Quinn and Pastor Trevon really helped me, and helped me to strengthen my faith. So with that, I came up with that. I was like, all right, I want to quit my job. I'm gonna work part-time and I'm gonna study.
Mm-hmm.
And I saved my money because, and I tell people this too, the whole process of law school is very expensive, but you can do it. So I saved my money for the LSAT prep course.
Mm-hmm.
And so I left my job before I even signed up for the prep course, or before I even signed up for the test itself.
Right.
So I took, left my job, and then I got a part-time job, and I studied,
Mm-hmm.
and then I took the exam, and I applied, and I ended up getting in. And I ended up getting a scholarship
Okay.
at my
Awesome.
school. So if I didn't get that scholarship, I don't know how I would have been able to afford law school.
Right. Wow. That's a great.
Now, was I anticipating the scholarship? No.
No.
Did I even know how I was going to pay for law school?
No,
No.
you was figuring it out.
Nope, but I took a leap of faith, and I was
Mhm.
like, God will work it out. And so I left my job,
Mm-hmm.
and he did. God worked it out.
Awesome.
So I was able to I got a scholarship that covered 70% of my tuition.
That's amazing. Now, what law school did you go to?
Quinnipiac.
Oh, Quinnipiac. Very nice.
Quinnipiac Law School, yeah.
Okay, nice.
And it's in North Haven, Connecticut.
Wow. All right.
So I tell people to apply there too.
Yeah,
They give
good.
out. It's a good school,
Right.
and they have good opportunities.
Mhm.
I had a lot of hands-on experience, and they give out a lot of scholarships.
Wow. Now, this all started from a vision board in a small group.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I put it on my vision board. I didn't know what I was going to do, how I was going to do it. But I remember I had my short-term goals, and I had my long-term goals, and I even put a black woman getting hooded at graduation. And then I ended up actually having a picture similar to that.
That's awesome.
So they took a picture of me that looked
Yeah.
similar to the one that was on my vision board.
Right.
Yep, but I had the LSAT there. I put what score I wanted. I put School of Law. I put all those things and be prayed over my vision board. And
Mm-hmm. So you were really sick. Was that a vision board? So I don't really know how vision boards work. You look at it every day? Was
Yeah.
it just okay.
I put it up and I looked at it every day.
Okay.
So mostly everything that I put on that vision board,
Really?
I've accomplished.
That's amazing. How's that feel? Shucks. Yeah, obviously
Yeah.
you sworn in, but you start with this vision board,
Mm-hmm.
which is, like, I don't want to disrespect anybody when I say this. Like, it's like an arts and crafts types of thing. And now it's all here.
Yeah. But you ever notice, okay, so what you watch and what you see and what you read and what you listen to all impacts you.
Right.
So if you're looking at something every day, then like you may not even realize you're doing it, but you're working towards that.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what it is, if you're listening to negative things every day, that can change your mindset to be negative. If you're listening to positive things every day, that can change your mindset.
Right.
So if you're looking at your goals every day, that's reminding you of what you need to be working towards. So even when you don't think you're working towards it, you are.
Got you. Absolutely. Yeah,
So, and looking in that every day, I started to change my own movements and things and habits and decisions that I was making, so that way I can accomplish the goals that I want to accomplish.
Right. Wow. That's awesome.
So, it was one of the best decisions I ever made.
I can imagine being where you are now.
Yeah, I mean, granted, I don't have my dog anymore or anything like that, but it was one of the best decisions. Like, I absolutely love my job.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was about to ask. So tell me more about like just where you're working now. Like, what's that like?
So now I work at the public defender's office. While I was in law school, I interned on both sides. So I interned for the prosecutor's office and the public defender's office.
Mm-hmm.
So I interned at the 𝐥𝐤𝐤𝐞, the Brooklyn DA's office, the prosecutor's office, one of the prosecutor's office in Connecticut, the public defender's office in Connecticut. So now I work at the public defender's office, and I love it. I like having the one-on-one interaction with clients and being able to feel like I can help in some way.
Right.
For me, like growing up, especially in like Neptune and Asbury, just seeing different things, and I'm trying to say this in the best way possible. I saw things that I wasn't necessarily comfortable with in regards to our judicial system or just policing.
Yeah. And
I wanted to be in a position where I can help or have a positive impact within this system. And I knew the only way I can do that is if I was an attorney.
Okay.
So for me, I was like, I have to go to law school because I feel like I won't have a voice unless in this field, right, or in this area unless I go. So seeing different things, and then even knowing people that I grew up with that have been subjected to the criminal justice system, the things that they went through and how it impacted their families and things like that. And many people don't know, like, what people go through, right?
Yeah, it's no joke.
And so when a crime happens, it's not just the victim that's hurting, right? It's the person who's incarcerated, who's also going through stuff. It's their family that's also hurting. Like, there are a lot of people that are hurting on both sides, and I think sometimes people forget that.
Yeah, it does get lost.
Yeah, it just looks at, oh, this person's bad, or they did it. And every person who does who commits a wrongful act that doesn't necessarily mean that they're a bad person. They just committed a wrongful act, right?
Yeah.
And some are intentional and some aren't. So it just, you can't really judge someone for the things that they may or may have done.
Right. So it sounds like that was your why, to like you wanted to make changes within, a system that you saw needed changing.
Yeah.
That was your why.
That's my why. Yep.
Wow. And so was that a thought that came in your mind, when you're reading these 5 pages that takes an hour and everything, like when it was hard, was that a thought that was always present in your mind? Like, look, this is hard right now, but this is why I'm doing this.
Yeah, it was that, and then I said to myself, because I talked to myself, I said, Mary Jessica.
Those are the most important talks. Those are the most important ones.
So I was like, Mary Jessica, you quit your job to be here.
Right.
So you're going to get through this, So I think we need to, I don't know if people do it enough, but people need to really encourage themselves as often as possible. Like, speak affirmations to yourself often. I mean, I do.
Yeah.
And it helps. So when times were tough, yes, I remembered my why, but I also, would encourage myself, like, what did I do to have to be here? Right. And so, you have to keep the big picture at the forefront. Right.
So it's kind of like you've already made these many steps. You've already taken these risks. You've already overcome these obstacles, things like that. Why are we stopping now?
Right. And so even if someone takes the exam and the bar and they don't pass, it's like, well, you went through all of that, and you went through law school, which is not easy, so why would you give up now? It's like the last hurdle. Right. So no matter how many times it takes someone, they should just keep going. Wow. It's the last step, so like, why would you give up?
You're right there.
Yeah.
Right there. It reminds me of, there's like, well, at least I saw this meme once, where it was like these two guys like digging, and it's like this whole like there's like a whole bunch of diamonds on one side, and this one guy he's like right there, but he like quits, but there's another guy that's like a little bit behind him that's like still working. So at least what you said just kind of reminded me of that, where it's like that's the last hurdle. Like you right there, why quit?
Right.
You know,
yeah.
it's tough, but you know you can do it.
Yeah, because once you get over that hard part and you're on the other side, it's like I'm not gonna lie. Like the hard part, I'm not forgetting, but it's not. I'm not dwelling on it, or it doesn't impact me or in a negative way. Like I'm not so fixated to say, oh, I went through all of this. Like it's almost as if I know it happened, but it's almost as if it didn't happen.
Gotcha.
Right, because now I am over that hump, and I'm where I always wanted to be.
Right.
Right, and I'm enjoying what I'm doing. So all of that was worth it. Like all those tough times were worth it.
So tell me more about just like now, like what's next for you? Like obviously, you know, you're in the position that you want to be in. So now obviously your why is included in, you know, making changes and things like that. Are you now like working on another vision board, or are we still in the process of that now? If so, can I get a little insight of what you're doing? Like
I am still figuring that out. So I'm working now in criminal law. I'm enjoying it. I'm still trying to figure out what can I do because I'm still learning. Being an intern and being an attorney is very different, right? Because you're like before, I was helping people with their cases, and now I have my own cases.
Yeah, you got your cases.
Yeah, it's like my cases. Like, oh, okay. Like, oh, these are mine. Oh.
Right. Yeah.
You know, my boss came with a stack. Like, here you go. I was like, okay.
Yeah. Like, this is for me.
This is for me. Sure? All of these.
You look around like, wait, this is for me.
All of these are mine.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I'm like, okay.
That's awesome.
So it's still just navigating that. But for me, it's just to try to do the best that I can and really like help. You know, because it's not. Yes, these are cases, but these are people, right? These are their lives, right? And so even if it's a minor charge, it still can negatively impact somebody. So I always think about that.
Right.
Like, how is this impacting them?
Yeah, that's important because, I mean, shucks, when you're dealing with at least the justice system, you know, because everything is classified in numbers and all that type of stuff, it's great that you remember, like, each number is a life. Like, this is someone's real life. And, you know, it just brings me back to your why. Like, it just sounds like, even just through your whole story, you were just very deeply rooted in your why. Because, I mean, to have the whole interaction with John Lewis, to go from having that hilarious interaction with Barack Obama to, you know, saving up for that trip to even go to be in that situation, then figuring out law school and everything like that. Like, I mean, it sounds like you were just completely driven in your why. Yes.
But I can say this too. I have an amazing group of friends that we all encourage each other. Like all of us. We are in a group chat, and each one of my friends have went through a similar hurdle, right? Like coming out of undergrad and maybe not having a job right away, or not knowing what they want to do, and then figuring out or not getting the job that they wanted right immediately.
Right.
But each one, I can say, has accomplished their goal as well.
Who? I want to. Who? What they doing?
So I'm not gonna say names because I don't want to put anyone's business out there. But like one of my friends wanted to be. She wanted to work in the entertainment industry, and so like coming out of undergrad, she was working like 2 jobs, and then she did something similar. And her story actually inspired me. She said, "I'm gonna quit my job." She saved up her money. She said, "I'm gonna quit my job and I'm gonna move back to Atlanta." So she did that. She moved back to Atlanta. She started volunteering, different things, and she ended up getting a job for Tyler Perry Studios. So she worked there for a little bit, and then she was like, "You know, I really want to be a writer." So she said, "I'm gonna go move to LA."
Wow.
And she moved to LA, and she ended up working like for Paramount Studios, and like she worked on all these movies and like Netflix movies and things like that. She's still in that field. Right. So if she didn't leave her job, she wouldn't be where she is. Yeah. I had another friend who went to school, got her master's in forensics, and she said, "I'm not going to work another job unless it's in my field." And she ended up working she was an investigator for like for like legal aid, to being an investigator for the DA's office, to the AG's office, and now she's an FBI agent.
Wow, good for her.
Yep.
That's awesome. That has to be empowering too, though.
Yep.
Like to have people that are around you, like your support system, like they're not just support in a way. Like, like they're doing what they're supposed to do. They're chasing the dream or goals that they have. Like that, like you said, I mean, that your friend quitting her job inspired you to do the same.
And one of my friends, she did the same thing. She was a school teacher, and she said, I want to go back and get my second master's. And she's like, I want to go to Harvard. And she ended up becoming a principal. Then she went to Harvard, got her second master's, and then she got her EDD from Harvard as well.
Wow.
And so now she's a doctor, you know, and she's working in education. At least she's working education policy and things like that. So she followed her dream and she accomplished it. So being around people that you see who are doing what they say they want to do and actually accomplishing their goals is very inspiring. So I always tell people get yourself a good group of friends, a good circle to be around.
Gotcha.
Because that also helped me to be where I am right now too.
Awesome.
In addition to my family, of course,
well,
right?
Yeah.
I'm very supportive, and just people along my journey who saw something or was like, you know what, Mayor Jessica, I think you should do this or try this,
right? Or
presented an opportunity and then I went and I applied for it.
Right.
Like, hey, I saw this opening. You think you should apply? And I did, not knowing whether or not I'll get it, but I still put my name in the hat. So I tell people all the time, don't tell yourself no. Let somebody else let them tell you no.
Right.
But still apply and put your name in the hat.
I mean, you're gonna be in the same position anyway. Someone tells you no, what's the difference?
Right, exactly. So I'm just do it. If you think this is something that you want to do, then just try it. Because if you tell yourself no, you're doing yourself an injustice, right?
Right, absolutely.
You're still in the same spot.
Wow.
But that no can really be a yes if you just put yourself out there.
Right, to be, to get the yes. No, that makes sense. That really makes sense. So you go through this amazing journey. You're a lawyer now. What do you want people to kind of know you for? Like let's say, someone's making a documentary about you, right? About just your journey, your life. What are some key characteristics that you want people to know about you? What are some things that you learned along the way? What were some of those key things where it's I'm here because of A, B, C, D? What is that for you?
That's a really good question.
Oh, thank you.
I'm a little stumped. What do I say? So something that I would want people to remember me by, that I'm caring, dedicated, and that I'm really about my community. The community is very important to me. I know people say that the community as a whole, but we're all the same, right? So being able to help people. I'm where I am because someone helped me.
Right.
So it's important for me to help others too. You can't do this world by yourself. We're not even designed or built to do that. So for me, it's just leaving a legacy of she really tried her best to be there and help her community.
Right. That's awesome. So are you in the process of helping others now, or are we still just?
Oh no. So as I was recruiting, my job to recruit was just talking about my law school, talk about Quinnipiac. But I didn't just do that because my goal, ultimately, even in doing that, was to increase diversity in the for law schools in general, right? Especially for Quinnipiac. So when I would go to talk to the students, I would actually tell them about the whole process. This is what you need to do to start. Sign up for the 𝐤𝐸𝐷.org. Make an account. You need to be in leadership roles. You need to be volunteering. I would ask the students, well, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing here to make an impact? Because that will make your application stronger, right? So it's just things that people didn't tell me, so I would tell them. And I actually gave many of them my cell phone number, so people still call me to this day to ask me questions.
That's awesome. About
the process or what they should be doing and things like that. So it's my goal to really help because it could be rough, especially if you don't know. Yeah. And so that's one thing that I do. You had asked something else.
What was my other question? You know what? I forgot it.
But I'm always here to help. I think it's just important to me to let people know what you need to do to get to where to get through this journey. So if anybody ever has questions, I always ask, or help them.
Wow. Well, Jess, you have an amazing story.
Thank you.
Like,
I hope I was able to convey that today.
No, I definitely think so, because I mean, shucks, to know that it all started with, you understanding your why, to then transition to, all right, I'm gonna be a lawyer, but then to kind of hit the obstacle of like that fear you talked about, the obstacle of, it seems like everybody else knows what they're doing, but I don't, but then also, just all of that, those obstacles on top of, the financial obstacles and just people seeing something in you that you didn't see in yourself, to now be in the position where you're, like you said, you wake up fulfilled, you wake up happy doing what you're doing, where you are, and things like that. Like, that is, I think, just so inspirational to me. Like, even as someone where I'm pursuing everything I'm pursuing, like, to even hear you articulate that, because, everyone has different obstacles. Everyone has different types of obstacles. So for you to have the obstacle of, I was afraid, but I still did it. But to also have the obstacle of, I had no idea what I was doing, but I asked a bunch of questions. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm certain that there are people out there that really resonate with that. And, with just your story and just everything we talked about today, it'll really be helpful. So this was great.
Thank you. I always tell people, I said, most people know the end goal, how to get there, but they just need the door to open.
Yeah.
Like, once you open the door, just show them the path, they'll be fine. Right? So once that one door opens, it's like you just travel along, and God really will put the right people in your life at the right time to push you where you need to be, right?
Yeah.
To propel you to the next level. And so all of those things, if I'm looking back at just the journey itself, it was like people were coming in at the right time and saying, hey, I found out about this, so why don't you try this or do this, or just even in conversation, and then later someone calls me and is like, hey, I thought about you because this opportunity came up, and I remember we talked about XYZ. So I always tell people, don't be afraid to talk. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I don't care what anyone's title is, who they are. If they can be the president. It doesn't matter. If you get an opportunity to talk to the president, talk to the president,
Well,
So,
you got your opportunity not to talk to the president.
But
I
just tell people that all the time, because you never know what can happen, right? And so if you shut yourself off, you'll never grow.
Correct. Closed mouths don't get fed.
I mean, hello.
Oh, wow. Well, that was a wrap on another episode of Dreamer Talks. This was awesome. Hopefully see you guys on the next one.